portfolio meeting. I am Councillor Donaghy, the Executive Cabinet Member, and I will introduce the items on the agenda as set out in the orders. The first item is monitoring of the Executive Cabinet Members' decisions, and there's an enclosure. Members, any comments or questions or queries? Very well, we note those actions. Item 2 is the financial monitoring report, and I think Lisa is going to take us through this one. Lisa.
Thank you very much, Chair. This report is showing the financial position as at Q2 for the 23-24 financial year. Members are asked to note the revenue budget, the financial position, and agree the director to delegate authority for contract agency and the capital programme. Taking you through to the summary, the revenue outturn is at £11 million for the end of the financial year. As members will be aware, this is a couple of million higher than at previous Q1, and in the main this is due to unit costs and prices of placements that we're putting children into. Revenue for the dedicated school grant is now 608,000 less than grant, which is good. It's still underspent, but it has changed from the previous quarter due to children coming into schools in September and readjusting. Capital expenditure is there at 25.43, and we spent 975,000, and the reserve movements are shown and expected to be 24.6, but this does include the capital monies from school balances. But members, please be aware that the actual children's departmental reserves are at a deficit of £9 million. Taking you through the body of the report, Table 1 shows the budget adjustments done for both the revenue and the DSG grant. All strategic redirections have now been realised, and the final part is we've offset the staffing across the children's by using various demand strategies, and which we'll be closely monitoring through the next financial year. Moving through, Table 2 shows where our overspends are, and there's no surprise that in the Staying Safe division, the £8 million is showing as our placement demand in that particular area. There's the narrative for the variances, and then capital programme and reserves are detailed, and further detail are actually in the appendix. And Chair, I'm quite happy to take any questions or comments about this report.
Thank you, Lisa. Members, any questions, comments, queries? Councillor Galloway.
Thank you, Councillor Donaghy. Thank you, Lisa. Yes, the costs are really rising very fast. I think it was 6 million, the projected outturn the last quarter, and now it's around 8. What is your estimate for the Q4 figure?
Thank you, Councillor Galloway. Chair, if I can reply. So that we do work on projections, so we do work on that. This is what we're anticipating for the financial year. So we take all the placements that we get during the year, and we then say, right, how much will this cost to the end of the financial year? We have built-in growth, but unfortunately the demand has outweighed the growth position that we've put in. So although we have concerns which I raised to the Treasurer and exec member, we are on our back foot a little bit. So it has grown up to the 8 million in the Staying Safe, but as children are coming in and the unit prices are getting higher because the market's dictating, it is quite a worrying position that we're in. But we are doing proactive work with the demand strategy, and we are looking at how we can mitigate, costs and do something different, a bit more transformational. But this won't happen in this financial year. This is aspirational stuff which will take a few years to bed in. So to answer your question, but the projections themselves are looking at £11 million, but I am sure that growth will outweigh that as they're coming over the next 6 months.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could come back, Can I
Yes,
get
of course,
that?
Anne.
Yeah, because they are creeping up the figures, aren't they? I think 5%, because they're usually around about 550.
That's correct.
And they're 570s now, I think. And I know that we were trying to keep a lid on the costings of the residential placements. And I think at GM level, we agreed a 7% uplift. I just wondered if that had come to, did that work? Or is it the placements as well as the numbers increasing? The placements are rising faster than inflation.
Thank you, Chair. Am I okay to...
Lisa, sorry, could I just bring Paul in first, please?
Perfect.
I think he just wants to make a comment. Paul? You're muted, Paul.
Someone had to do it, didn't they? Thank you, Chair. To be honest, my comment answers your question, Councillor Galloway. We've seen a small increase in the number of looked after children, but it's not massive. That's not what is driving the cost increases. The cost increases is due to the market and the increase in cost to providers, or the providers' costs that they're putting back on us. And this is a national issue. This is picked up in the review of children's social care, in the Competitions and Markets Authority reports that have been circulated round and gone round nationally. I think we've tried to work collaboratively across Greater Manchester to keep the costs down, but we can only go so far with some of that. Our demand strategy will help, but this is a national issue that we're struggling with as much as any other authority.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Anne?
No, there's
You wish
one
to come
more.
back?
Did Lisa want to come back? There was one more issue, because I think in the notes it said the children have got more complex needs. It's more complicated. And I know that we were trying to get joint funding with the NHS on the more complex cases. And I think we got maybe about 500,000, maybe last year. I just wondered if that arrangement is still working out okay. And you're still happy with getting joint funding from the NHS?
Lisa?
So you're correct that we still do have joint funding received from the NHS, and we still have panels, but I'm not quite into the detail of the process of that. So if I can refer to Geraldine and Paul, Chair.
Okay, Geraldine?
Is that okay, Paul? So we've got two sorts of processes that we have. So we've got a complex case panel within social care and also within education, and it's a well embedded process now, working with health colleagues, whereby those more complex children are taken to the panel, and then there's a funding agreement where at least a third of the costs are met by our health colleagues. So that is continuing, Councillor Galloway, and we're seeing real support from our health colleagues on that, to be fair.
Yeah,
Paul?
If I can come back just to echo that, yeah, it's working pretty well at the moment. There's only the health elements of the placement, though, that the NHS will fund. The social care element of the placement is something that's the local authority duty. But we are receiving income from the NHS through that panel process that Geraldine outlined there.
And if we could have a figure at some point on that, do you do that at the end of the financial year?
Yeah, we can do that and circulate that round and share that information with you.
Yeah, it'd be useful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, Anne, thank you. Any further comments, questions? Thank you. I note the report. We've now got the Children's Services Performance Management Report, and I think, Paul, you're going to take this.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the current performance report for Children's Services. It's set out in a number of sections for children's social care, early help, inclusive education and learning, and SEND, and sets out basically what we've delivered, what difference we've made, and what have been our challenges in the period there. And there's a number of sections in terms of statistical releases that are in there as well. There's a lot of detail in the report. I don't plan to talk through all of it, but happy to take any questions that anyone's got on the detail.
Members, any comments, questions? No, very well. We note the report. Increase in establishment, item 4. This is an education access officer. And I think Geraldine's going to take this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is a request, as you say, Chair, to increase the education access officer post that we have within the borough from 0.71 equivalent, so just under sort of 4 days term time only, to increase that to a full-time equivalent of 1 permanent person, and with an additional cost of £15,000. Those costs will be met from the service already, and this is due to the increase in the workload that we're seeing, particularly within inclusion. Happy to take any questions or comments.
Members, any comments, questions, queries? I've got a hand up from Angela Hunt.
Councillor Donaghy, apologies. This refers back to the financial report. I do apologise for bringing people back to that one. I just note that you noted the report, but there were other recommendations within that, just for the avoidance of doubt.
Yeah,
Yes,
thanks,
okay.
Angela.
I know the report and approve the recommendations. Thank you, Angela, for keeping me on the straight and narrow.
No worries. Thank you, Councillor.
Yes. Okay, back to Geraldine. Any questions on the education access officer as described in the report now before us? Very well. I note the report and approve the recommendations. Item 5 is the Children's Commissioning Contract. And I think this is Tracy.
It is. Thank you, Chair. This paper has been brought to you today to propose and request the extension of 2 upcoming contracts, those being the Young Carers Service and the Birth Parent Support, that's Adoption Now, for respective 6 and 3 months. That will allow times to complete a full work around engagement and co-design of the new contract, which would commence from October 2024. So the Executive Cabinet members recommended to waive the standing order and approve a 6-month extension for the Young Carers contract, and the same approach for a 3-month extension for the Birth Parent Support contract, to approve the subsequent procurement tender process within the requested contract extension period to allow for a continuation of both services, and to authorise the Borough Solicitor to carry out all necessary legal formalities. Chair, I won't go through the paper in detail, but it does give you specific information in terms of both of those services currently, the Young Carers Service and the Family Action Service. I would say that certainly the Young Carers Service has an excellent track record of delivery and is strongly aligned to the strategic work around young carers and adult carers, so our all age carers contract. And similarly, Birth Parent Support, those delays and issues are outlined in sections 2.12 to 2.14, not least that it is a collaboration approach, and we need to make sure that we can bed in the flexible purchasing model in time to be able to do the full retender. So the options are detailed in section 3. Option 1 would be to extend the current contracts for 6 and 3 months respectively in order to carry out all the necessary engagement work. And option 2 would be to attempt to procure the new services within a reduced time frame, but that would limit the amount of engagement we could do with both young people and key stakeholders. And I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Members, any questions, comments, queries? No, very well. I note the report and approve the recommendations.
Thank you, Chair.
So item 6 is the Inclusion Service, Deputy Head of Inclusion. I'm not sure who's taking this report. Is that you, Geraldine?
It is, Chair. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. This is a request for a new post. It's the Deputy Head of Inclusion. The post will support the current Head of Inclusion and will also help with the other services that sit within inclusion. It's quite a large team, including behaviour support, the early intervention team, the Achievement, Cohesion and Integration Service, and the re-engagement team. And again, because of increased workload within that area, we are requesting that there's also a Deputy Head post to support the Head of Inclusion with the additional work There is an additional cost of £67,600 with on cost, but it can be met from within the service in the additional income that it generates. I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Members, any questions, comments, queries? No, very well. I note the report and approve the recommendations.
Thank you, Chair.
And our final item is the report on Thomason Memorial School, the building works. And I think Paul's going to take this.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so members will be aware about the challenges that we currently have with Thomason Memorial School and some building issues that we're currently in the process of remediating. This report sets out the budget approvals for us to progress with the remediation of the building challenges around the asbestos. Our challenge with this is we are still awaiting some further feedback from the DFE on the school's rebuilding programme. The school was, we applied for the school to be rebuilt as part of that programme in 2022, and that was knocked back. We are waiting for the appeal results, and that should be arriving any minute. And there has been some communications to the DFE and the head of the programme from ourselves expressing the urgency around understanding the decision around that appeal. So this sets out, the report asks for the approval for the 1.4 million, which is basically for us to relocate the school in the time that it would take to remediate the asbestos, which will basically mean that the school will not be in the school building for near enough the rest of the academic year, which is another blow to the school after the flood that happened a couple of years ago. And I would just like to say, it's not in the report, but the school, the staff are doing an absolutely amazing job under very, very difficult circumstances here in terms of managing this. So we're moving forward, we're supporting the school, but we're very much looking forward to a response from the DFE in the next few days.
Okay, so I've got Councillor Galloway. Anne?
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, what a nightmare for the school. And I feel very sorry for their children and for the staff. I just wondered if they what the feeling is, because I know they were quite upset at the beginning of 2022. I know the governing body were very upset. So I just want to know, how the head is and the feelings of the parents. And also remember last year they used the guide HQ there, but they didn't like that arrangement because we've now got prefabricated classrooms on the site of the UCAN. So the guiding HQ didn't work out, did it not, last year?
So if I take those questions, the last one first, the guiding HQ was something that we did at short notice, which we thought would be the best solution. It was very, very challenging to manage. I mean, neither the UCAN or the guides centre is a dedicated schools building, so it's going to come with challenges. The guides building came with more challenges than the UCAN. So that's why, and we've got a bit more time to line things up with temporary accommodation. So that's why we've chosen to go down the route of the temporary accommodation and put it next to the UCAN. Also, that will mean that the school is on one site rather than a split site. Even though it was relatively close, it still brought its challenges being on a split site. So that was the thinking to do that. In terms of the feeling in the school with the staff and the parents and the head, like I say, the school, the governing body, the staff are doing an amazing job. They're obviously not happy with this situation. None of us are happy with this situation. We are really struggling with the situation that we put in, and we're doing the best that we can to manage. And we're hoping that the DFE will come back with a positive answer on a longer term solution for the building. In terms of the parental side of things, we have received a couple of complaints from parents, and I understand that, and I expect there'll be more, to be honest, as this goes. but this is something that we will continue to work closely with the school and with the governing body and with the National Deaf Society as well, as much as possible, to minimise the impact on the education of some of the most vulnerable children in Bolton.
Thanks, Anne.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Priest, did you wish to say anything? No, you're okay.
No, I'm fine. Yeah, we had a briefing from Bernie about it, so we're fine about this. Yeah.
As long as you're all right, Susan, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, members, any further comments, questions, queries? No? Very well. I note the report and approve the recommendations. And that concludes the business of our meeting this morning. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And I hope that Susan Bailey's chest soon improves and that she's feeling a lot better.
Oh, thank you.
Make sure you cut that bit off at the end, Sue.
I know, you're going to have to make me edit now.
Okay,
Carl.
thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Cheers.
Thank
Bye-bye
you.
now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.